Hi everyone, it is Saturday. So today it's another chapter from my book Pieces, the 52 short stories about being human. In today's chapter it's called The Depression Talk. It's quite self-explanatory actually, and I don't think it'll take much to talk about this, but let's just start at the beginning actually, this time again. I'll have a read and then we'll have a chat. So, I had depression since my early childhood. In my case, I was able to remain fairly functional and I had avoided taking any medication for it. But I did turn to alternative and complementary medicine like aromatherapy, homeopathy, and acupuncture, and I literally would not be here without therapy. I used person-centered integrative NLP hypnotherapy. The reason why I am writing this is that despite plenty of freely available good information on depression out there, during my bad spells, I still got asked unhelpful questions and given unwanted advice, which is at best annoying and at the worst hurtful and isolating. People are still awkward about depression, as if it was something to be hush about, like STI. It's not infectious, you will not catch it. If you don't know what to say that you don't know what to say. The obvious discomfort of others when confronted with my depression used to really bother me, so I used to hide it. Pretend, put on a smile, and so very few people knew what was going on for me, which only deepened my sense of isolation and loneliness. Fortunately, I've realized that was not very helpful, as by not talking about it, I was isolating fellow sufferers as well as myself and making it difficult to get the support we needed. So I kind of, in the chapter I go on explaining what I would have found helpful and what to say, what not to say when you come across someone with depression. Obviously, this is not one rule fits all kind of thing. Everyone's different, and that's why I keep reiterating, like, just ask the person, especially if you get them on a good day, have a chat with them about what's going on when the days are not so good and what they would find helpful. And if you think you're not going to remember it, write it down, and then you'll be able to help them when they are going through rough patches, and you'll be able to spot the signs and support them in a way that they need and want. Depression is a funny one. I think we still, on a whole, don't have complete understanding of what it is, how it works. I am not keen on using medication for it, although I can appreciate that sometimes it's the best solution for some people. I knowing what I know about the medication and the side effects, considering most of the medication side effects, it's actually depression, mood swings, suicidal thoughts, also digestive problems and headaches and all that kind of stuff, sleeping problems. I didn't find that would be helpful to me, so I chose not to go down that route. I found therapy incredibly helpful, and that's what helped me. Resolving the causes behind the depression helped me to get rid of it for good. And also I got stronger and got, acquired tools that now help me to deal with all sorts of life situations, so I can deal with it a bit more effectively, and therefore I don't go down that route anymore. So although right now I'm probably in actually the most challenging situation I've ever been in my life, I don't feel depressed, and I don't feel like I'm anywhere near that either. Like, I feel Like, yes, things are difficult at times. I get upset, I get angry, I get tired, I get um, sad, whatever, but I'll just experience those emotions and I move on and, keep going about my day and doing what needs to be done. Um, so, very different to how I used to handle things when I would bottle up, push everything down, don't talk about it, don't tell anyone, just put on a brave face, everything's fine and I can handle this. But I couldn't at the time. Now I can handle things, but at the time I couldn't. I didn't know how to handle things, and I felt very lonely, very isolated. I felt like no one understood me. My self-worth was pretty low. I didn't feel valued, didn't feel listened to. But the funny thing is that I wasn't talking to anyone, so who would listen? They didn't know they needed to listen. My relationships were quite superficial and therefore not fulfilling, and then so when it came to the worst, really, when my husband died, um, it completely broke me because all this pain came up and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to handle it. I was really afraid of it. And because I was holding it within myself, I wasn't sharing the full extent of it. No one knew what I was going through, I just hid myself from the world. And it got to a really bad place where I actually felt suicidal because I felt like, well, what's the point? So, talking about things really, really, really helped, and, learning those, I suppose, survival tools. And also it helped me, going through all of this, doing my research and all that, it's really helped me to understand better. I can't say understand completely, but understand better of what depression is about. And my understanding is, and again, it's just my opinion, but my understanding is that depression is it's a safety mechanism. It's a natural safety mechanism that we evolved to all have, and it's help us to survive overwhelming situations. So when you feel emotionally overwhelmed, there's like a switch that you switch off for emotion, so you can't feel any. And that's what depression is. It's like your emotions are switched off, so you can't really feel any bad emotions, but you can't feel any good ones. So it just becomes like there is no flavor to life. It's like your taste buds were switched off, your smell was switched off, and then whatever you eat is just like ash. It has no meaning. Like it has no enjoyment. It just, what's the point of eating? Like this, it's blah. And that's a bit what it felt for me like, being depressed. I just felt switched off. I just felt like, what's the point? But sometimes what used to happen was that my depression was fluctuating with anxiety. So I got this high state of anxiety and feeling of overwhelm and fear. And then the switch would come in, and then the depression, the low, the kind of would come in, and I didn't have energy to do anything. Because my body, and my mind were trying to protect me. They were trying to force me to take a rest because I was so exhausted by the high state of anxiety. And then, if the low continued a little bit too long, because I got caught up in thinking about it from a point of view of a victim and not understanding what was going on for me, I thought it's going to last forever, and that made me anxious. So it spiked again. And it was constant up and down between anxiety, depression. And that, that was quite unbearable. So I was kind of fluctuating between really overwhelming emotions, pain and sorrow and feeling sorry for myself and, you name it, like all these kind of anger, all these, what we consider negative emotions just at its highest. Then the switch off, going to my lowest, wallowing in that for a bit, exhausting myself. Often, I would also use binge eating as a kind of comfort thing to cover it all up. That wouldn't help. And then, again, anxiety, and it would be up and down, while I was still reasonably functional and trying to mask it all. So when I then got told by some people, occasionally, they thought they were being helpful, but when you get comments like, "Oh, what are you gonna do about it? How are you gonna snap out of it? Why don't you just, get over it?" And all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like if I knew how to get out of it, I would have already. If it was that easy, then there would be so many people suffering with it. And it's just not helpful. It just knocks your confidence even more. It makes you feel like withdrawing even more, because if you feel judged and criticized for who you are, what you're experiencing, you don't want to share it with people. So that's definitely not a way forward. And there's so many videos and articles on this subject and books, yet there still seem to be also lots of ignorance. So hopefully with my chapter, I can help to dispel this ignorance just a little bit more, and eventually there'll be much better understanding of how to help people who are going through depressive spells, and how you can help yourself as well. So that's it. That's the Depression Talk chapter from my book Pieces, the 52 short stories about being human by Moa, Christina, and Matej. And if you don't have the book yet, you can get it on Amazon in Kindle version or in paperback version. And yeah, the cash that I do get from it are going towards my little baby. So please do go for it. Take care and have a good weekend.